Welcome to The Prize Inside, your favorite source for exploring the human potential through the stories of ordinary people achieving the extraordinary. These aren't just people exceeding physical limits. They're doing the impossible, and they aren't done yet. Are you ready to exceed your potential? Then join in now with your hosts, chiropractors Rochelle and Jeremy Myers and massage therapist Bunny.
Welcome, everyone, to The Prize Inside, where we learn about ordinary people doing extraordinary things. The Prize Inside is brought to you by MyPeakDirect.com. MyPeakDirect.com is an online store that holistic doctors have deemed the products exceptional. Ever have a difficult time knowing the best supplement to take? Maybe you've heard a suggestion and are not sure what is a good high-quality brand. MyPeak Direct is an online store that not only sells top-quality holistic supplies from top-rated companies, but everything they suggest, holistic doctors have deemed great. MyPeak does not recommend anything that its doctors have not even tried or have not tried firsthand. So check out www.mypeakdirect.com. Dr. Rachel Myers and Amy Segerman offer 4 components to support you as you begin your journey toward lifelong transformation, one healthy habit at a time. Your coach will be with you every step of the way. Studies show that having a support system can help you get better results. It's why each client gets paired with a coach to guide them on the path to optimal health and well-being. Their coaches are there to empower and encourage you in real time. They know the journey you're about to embark on because they themselves have been on that same journey. So call 269-964-1441 and ask for Dr. Rachel or Amy to get started today.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to The Prize Inside. Today, we're going to discuss principle number 11, and I'm going to shock everybody. This thing is longer than 2 sentences, so hang on to your hats. It's going to be pretty good. Most of the other ones we've had have been like 8 words. So before I begin, I found a good quote for what we're going to discuss today because it gets pretty powerful in these next principles. So, in nature, nothing is perfect. And everything is perfect. Trees can be contorted, bend in weird ways, yet they're still beautiful. And that was done the quote was Alice Walker. So before we begin this one, I'm going to kind of wrap up the other 10 principles that we've had. I'm probably not going to read them all this time. We're just going to kind of go through. What we've gone through is that there's a universal intelligence that guides all the universe. This intelligence is organized. That's why you see, physical things. So you see physical trees, you see physical winds, and anything in the natural law. So in a way, the universal intelligence in my brain is easier to think of as the laws of physics. So gravity would be one, wind, those kind of things. Anything that interacts with our human body. Innate intelligence is the body's inherent ability, because that's important to us, our inherent innate intelligence to help cooperate with the universal intelligence. So a lot of people think it's like the universal versus innate, but that's not true. The real thing is it's a cooperation, a balance, perfection that we have to figure out as our journey goes further. So you have this universal intelligence, you have this innate intelligence. Within our body, the innate intelligence creates the energy, the movement, the life within us to adapt to the universal intelligence that surrounds us. So that's where these two interact. And so far in the 10 principles, you have intelligence, force, and matter. Those are the 3 things they kind of have defined very much. So intelligence, this innate intelligence, creates this force, right? So energy. So this energy that is within us to have our matter do the different things. And if all of that's working perfectly, 100%, with no interference to it, it's perfect health. Okay, so that's the intention of all the 10 principles we've gone over so far. And if you haven't heard them all, go back. Each one's kind of broken down in a small clip podcast that I love doing for everybody. So today is principle number 11. Principle number 11 is the character of universal forces. So that's interesting, right? So universal forces are, we'll give the definition actually. The forces of universal intelligence are manifested by physical laws. They're unswerving and unadapted and have no solicitude for the structures in which they work. So the universal forces, like we talked about before, are gravity, wind, the movement of water, the physics behind all that, right? So you have these things that have no reason to, they have, it doesn't matter what structure it is, right? So it doesn't matter if this person is, a female or a male, it doesn't matter. It's all the same. And so what that does is make us in a unique situation where we have this conscious mind that is able to adapt and understand, what is occurring. And so we've created our own, we've written them down in books, we've started to understand science as we know it. And so the biggest difference is that we need to start, because we haven't done a good job of teaching what does our innate intelligence do with these universal forces. So one of the biggest mistakes in health is that we give that up to other people to understand. And to me, this should be basic knowledge within what we teach our children. Beyond that, to give them these powerhouses of knowledge at that time. One reason chiropractors, and after 20 years, it's just absolutely amazing to see kids that have gotten adjusted in their past, right? So whether it be me, whether it be another person, what happens? Let's say mom and dad just want me or a chiropractor to check their spine. Okay, so they're 4 years old, they fell off the swing, blah, blah, blah. We check everything and everything's working. Well, let's say they had one vertebrae that was misaligned. Maybe it wasn't from the swing accident. Maybe it was something else. So they had the subluxation is what we call it, but something not working right? So the chiropractor comes in, aids it. Now, what we're doing is just trying to remove the interference. That's a lot of times what people think or misinterpret about it, like chiropractic. What we're trying to do is basically create perfect alignment with all joints, because then your body naturally will start to take that process. Do we have to wait for pain? No, we can find these things, find these different areas, make them work better, right? And then you can see a big difference. Well, what's fascinating in 20 years, about every child that I've ever adjusted, every time, years later, let's say 10 years later, because I wish we would do a study on this, they're not waiting for these massive pain issues to show up. So what I mean by that, they have a self-awareness, and we go through this in our office all the time, but they have a self-awareness that's inherent and built in, that's a little more cohesive or sharper than most people out there. Most of the time we go through life taught that, early, especially, because if I said, aspirin to anyone, we're giving aspirin to 4-year-olds, right? Like, so, I hurt this, well, here's some aspirin, take that. Well, why do we do that? Well, we try to stop the process. We try to stop the pain aspect of it. Well, what are we teaching at that point? That it's outside of our body, that we're looking for the aid to improve whatever condition there is. And that is years, hundreds of years of us getting entrenched in this idea that something outside of us is better. Now the problem is when you're small, and we start doing that, they lose the ability, and because they can adapt really well. So one of the things about aspirin and all these other like smaller medications like that is part of their success is that they stop the pain reflex, let's say, until nature does an adaptation and gets rid of that pain. So did they help align and make the body perfect? No, they just basically waited it out. And that happens day after day. That's even taught in a lot of medical schools in how to handle it. Take this amount, right? And then see how it goes over that time in hopes, and a lot of times it's like 70%, 90% probably of the time, our bodies are able to adapt around the situation, taking the pain or the condition that's there away, and then magically it feels like everything's better. Well, then years down the road, if that alignment, let's say to a vertebrae is off, and the nerve to the stomach was also affected a little bit, but no one knew because we adapted around it, are we working at perfection? Are we working with no interference? Well, you could have this interference for years, and so that's one of the processes. But what's the neatest thing, and I believe this to my core, is that chiropractic, really the key when people figure this out, is about body alignment or body self-awareness. Self-awareness is actually the critical mass portion. And a lot of times when kids get adjusted, even if they don't get adjusted for the next 6 years, they know they need to. Well, what is that meaning? Or they feel the function of their musculoskeletal system not working correctly. And so they understand that there's a tool that actually does that. This happens a lot with kids, especially. I've adjusted dogs before. Dogs are fascinating because, they come in, they're hurting. Let's say my old doctor taught me how to do bigger dogs, not a lot of the smaller ones, but sometimes you can adjust them. And what's fascinating is once you help them, the next time they come to you almost like they have no issue. The first time they might be scared out of their mind. The second time they're like, oh, this guy's great. And there's some kind of inherent knowing that alignment is going to help them. So that's one of the things that's fascinating about this one. We have this characteristic that universal forces are going to not ever change. But what's our innate intelligence? Is it perfect to go against these universal forces like gravity? We say, yeah, as we go, we say, one of our knees is, one of my favorite lines I ever heard a chiropractor say was, oh, doc, I got this right shoulder. Arthur has attacked me. He's got a bunch of arthritis in that shoulder. Just because of old age. And then the doctor looks at him and says, so how old's your other shoulder? So the idea is that there was something in the intelligence of the body that had to create an adaptation to get your body to work at least to a certain point in the right shoulder. That, let's say, years and years ago, maybe if that biomechanics of that shoulder were working at perfect, is there a chance you wouldn't have had all this arthritis in the shoulder? Because the left one is working just fine. So why is that, right? So it's just things to think about as you're going through these different principles. They get better and better as we go. But understanding that our innate intelligence, our self-awareness, is one of the keys. And that's one reason why when people discover chiropractic and it really helps with something, you can see the wheels start turning in day-to-day life. When something starts bothering you, do you go get that little aspirin or pill or whatever to stop it? Or do you go, okay, I got to figure out what I have to do physically. Let's say it's icing and resting and doing these things, seeing a chiropractor, seeing a therapist of some sort, maybe all those things. And then you learn that you can adapt yourself, because what happens is a lot of times with these aspirins and those kind of things, you push a condition down the road, but now it's also a chronic condition. So it's just food for thought as you're going. Try things. Maybe try to make sure you're looking inward before you grab something that's outside in. So, and once we start learning those, then, the life of your spine, the life of your musculoskeletal system, the life of your other organs, frankly, get better and better over time. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this very much. I always enjoy talking to you guys. And so we'll see you on the next podcast. Thanks.
Don't think for a second that this episode has reached its full potential, because we have plenty more for you on Myers-Chiropractic.com. Be sure to like us on Facebook and subscribe to the show on your preferred podcast listening service so you don't miss a minute of real stories, real people, and real results. We look forward to exploring the human potential with you next time, right here on The Prize Inside.